Hey teachers, it's Tim here. Just wanted to let you know that on November 6th, I'm running one of my most popular online workshops. It's called the 6 Cores of Music Teaching and Studio Business Success. This practical workout, complete with a 2-page handout, involves a critical visioning exercise, finding out where you sit on the integrated music teaching matrix, and of course, unpacking where you rank on the 6 cores. Even if you've participated before, you can use this time to reset your vision and find out where you've improved on the 6 core rankings and therefore where to focus your energy for maximum impact in the next 6 months. And if you've heard about our top-level 12-week studio transformation program that we open the doors to twice a year in January and July, then attending this workshop is the first step in getting a place in the next cohort. And because it's so popular, I'll be running the workshop at 2 time zones to suit everybody around the world. Head to topmusic.co/workshop to secure your free place. Can't wait to see you then.
Hey there, I'm Rachel Ehring, and you're listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. Get inspired as we discuss creative resources, trends in piano pedagogy, ways to grow your income and streamline your studio, and new ways to engage your students each week. If you are a teacher who wants to go beyond the method books to create an innovative studio that fosters lifelong music makers, you've come to the right place. Hello, friends. Well, once again, I am very excited for you to hear the interview with my guest today. I know. I say that almost every week, but it really is true almost every single week, and especially today. When I found out that we were focusing on creativity and teaching this month, I knew that I wanted to have today's guest on the show. She is one of the sweetest and most creative teachers around, and she has recently started a new venture that she's going to share about today. If you love having creative resources on hand to pull out and use with your students, you are going to love my talk with Megan. Megan Schrayer enthusiastically strives to instill a passion for music in her students. Attempting to understand her students' learning style is a very important step to building a relationship with her students. Thereafter, she incorporates a variety of teaching approaches to appeal to each growing musician. Educating her students beyond just the pages of sheet music, Megan demonstrates the interworkings of the piano and its mechanics to the student so that they better understand how the instrument actually functions while they play. The students also study famous composers, establish proper technique and artistry, learn music theory, and gain confidence in performing for others. With every lesson, she treasures the privilege of enriching the student's life, and she deeply cares about each and every single one of them as individuals. Here's my chat with Megan. Hi, Megan. Welcome to the show. I am so happy that you're here with us today. Would you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your studio and business?
Sure. My name is Megan Schrayer, and I'm a wife, a mama of 2, and a piano teacher, and I am now the new owner of Dynamic Doodle Co. And Dynamic Doodle Co. provides music educators with all kinds of interactive and engaging materials for learning music theory. It also provides music educators with resources for music history.
Great. So we're going to talk a lot about Dynamic Doodle Co. today. Real quickly, could you tell us about your studio, how many kids you teach, if you're teaching in your home studio, or how that looks?
Sure. Right now, I have about 40 kids coming through a week, and that's between my preschool piano class and then one-on-one and then group lesson piano students. So it's a busy place.
That is busy, plus your own 2 little ones, right? And are they part of your preschool piano class?
Not quite yet. Earlier this year, I had been teaching a 1 to 4-year-olds music class, but with, things coming on with Dynamic Doodle Co., I had to put that one on pause. But, up until this summer, my kids had been in that class, and it was really, really fun. So I hope to welcome that class back, possibly in January.
Okay, that's really special when you get to teach your own kids. So let's talk about Dynamic Doodle Co. So we are doing a topic at Top Music this month on creative teaching. And so I thought I have to get Megan on the show. So thank you. I know you're so busy right now, but thank you so much for agreeing to do this. Tell us a little bit about what led to this takeover, as I'll call it, of Dynamic Doodle Co. How did it all come about?
Oh man. So ever since I started using Dynamic Doodle products, I had kind of kept close, communication with Stephanie, and just anytime I would use especially the Composer Chronicles, I would always tag her, and it kind of led to some dialogue and just kind of like a friendship there. And then she wanted to do like some type of partnership where I would, make content for her. And, we kind of had been back and forth about that for a bit. And then I went to follow up with her on it in August. And she said, I need to get back with you. We have some big important decisions to make. I was like, oh, what could that mean? So she got back to me pretty quickly and said, me and my husband have decided that we're going to sell Dynamic Doodle Co. And then she later told me, like, jokingly, I messaged you and said, would you be interested in buying it? And I didn't even hesitate for a second. I said, please tell me more. And I think that we both were like a little bit surprised, like, wow, like maybe this could work out. And she kind of started explaining the process to me and how we could go about it and how it could like work around our family and just the benefits of running Dynamic Doodle Co. while having littles, while running a studio, and just like how that worked for her for so many years. And so I talked to my husband about it, and 6 weeks later was October 1st, and then we were the new owners. So
That happened really fast.
yeah, it was pretty fast. So at the beginning of September, that's when I started like my internship with her, and that's when I made the Mozart Composer Chronicles.
Oh, I didn't know you made that one.
Yeah, for the whole month of September, starting September 1st on, that's when I was the one actively posting for Dynamic Doodle Co. So there had been a really long break since I think it was February, sometime in the spring. And then Stephanie's other company called Birch House Living, that one has been taking off. And that's the one that, she's focusing on a lot now.
That's so cool. So you probably wouldn't know this, but when I first started my other podcast, the Dynamic Piano Teaching podcast, Stephanie was one of my very first guests, like episode probably 2 or 3. She was one of the very first ones talking about Dynamic Doodle Co. because I had used some of her resources and I really liked them. And so I had her come on, and she was just the sweetest. And then you were like right up there too, probably in the first 10 episodes or so. You came on my podcast too. So I feel like it's come full circle somehow.
Yeah.
How did you first hear about Dynamic Doodle Co? Did you just come across it, or do you remember?
It was on Instagram, and it was when she was launching the Composer Chronicles. When I first saw those, I knew immediately, like I fell in love immediately. Like the little intro song was so cute. I loved the artwork. I loved the colors. And she did like the little teaser video of Beethoven. And I just thought, that's what I've been looking for years. So for my own students, I've always, it's always been important to me for my students to learn about the life of the person, of the beautiful music that they've been playing. And it's really hard to find kid-friendly resources. Like many of them, yes, they share the details of a composer's life, but sometimes that's not that's not
Yeah, sometimes
kid-friendly.
it's not very PG, huh?
Yeah, so it was like always such a struggle, and I researched hours and hours and hours. And you can find stuff about the mainstream composers, like the big names like Beethoven and Bach and Mozart, but the really awesome thing that Stephanie has done with Dynamic Doodle Co. is the lesser known composers are represented too, like people of color and women composers. And I've learned so much right along with my students because I haven't heard about a lot of the composers that have come out in the Composer Chronicles.
Yeah, I want to talk a little more about the business part, but since we're talking about Composer Chronicles, I personally have not used them. So I would love for you to share a little more about how you use them in your studio.
So for my studio each month, we study one composer, and that's like our spotlight composer for the month. And I'll sit down at the beginning of the month and write like an email newsletter with the links to Composer Chronicle video. So I'll have that first. And then in the worksheet bundle for the Composer Chronicles for each composer, there's a suggested listening list. So I'll take that list and go to YouTube, type in the piece, and then include each of those links in the newsletter. And then I'll send that out to my families. And that's kind of like a general way that everybody learns about the composers. And then during one-on-one lessons, at the beginning of the month, I'll sit down with my student, especially if there's it's like 2 back-to-back lessons. A lot of times my second student will come in just a couple minutes before their lesson time, and then the student I'm with, they'll stay a couple minutes after. So that in between little time, that's when sometimes I'll introduce the new composer and we'll watch it together. And then it's not taking up one person's lesson. It's like a little bit of both. It's a little bit of a community building thing because they get to like learn about the composer together. So that's like at the first of the month. And then for my group lessons, I have 3 different stations. And there's one lesson station, one practice station, and then one music history station. And at that station is where they would watch the video for the Dynamic Doodle Co. composer. And then after that, they would get to listen to music by that composer. And I always try to find a video that shows like someone actually playing the instrument, because that's like a way to introduce other instruments to my students.
Okay, I really like that idea of doing it in between the lessons. And then you don't have to say it 40 times, right? You only have to, that cuts down on your talking as well. All right, but I want to go back just a little bit and talk more about Dynamic Doodle Co. and the business of it, and also the production. One of the resources that I love using is the little wooden rhythm builders. But I saw on Instagram, it looked like you were cutting them out or doing something. Like, have you had to learn how to actually produce those products?
That's a great question, actually. So Stephanie has a laser cutter, and it's like this big giant machine, and she buys mass amounts of wood, sticks it in. I don't even know how like she wrote the program to cut the wood that way or what. I don't know what goes into that, but she cuts the wood in the pieces and she puts them all in a box and sends them to me. And then I have to assemble them. So I have a special kind of glue, and then I put it all over the top part of it and then put the 2 pieces together. And then she has certain quantities of each of the tiles, like the quarter notes, eighth notes, rests, all of those different tiles. And then I put those into the bags and make sure I have all the right numbers of tiles for each one. But yeah, for now, she is cutting them. But the goal is for me to get a laser at some point and learn how to do it myself.
That's a lot of new skills you've been learning. Are there other new skills? I know you've only been at this for a few weeks officially. Are there other skills that you've had to learn or business things that you've had to learn along the way?
Oh yeah, there's a whole world of stuff to learn about. And right now, actually, Stephanie is doing weekly coaching calls with me, and we just go over all of the questions from that week. And it actually, we started that in September. So she kind of started bringing me in on the back end of the website and how to process an order and how to make a button and how to use the software to make a button and all of the fun things. So there's been a huge learning curve, but Stephanie has just been amazing with sharing, walkthrough videos. Like she filmed walkthrough videos for me and put them into our Google Drive. So anytime I can go back and watch those, and that's been so helpful. As far as like new things I've had to learn before, taking over Dynamic Doodle Co., I had never processed an order from someone on Etsy or on website or anything. So that was new. I had an Etsy shop, but it was only for digital products. So when someone would buy something, boom, it was like delivered to them instantly. But this has been different. because it's a lot of physical products. So, learning how to package and process and pay for shipping and print labels and all of that, that's been a learning curve.
Yeah, I believe it. It's a lot to manage. How are you balancing all of this along with teaching and being a mom of 2 little ones?
So much help. There has been so much help from everyone around me. My husband has just been amazing with, hey, I'll take the kids, you go do what you need to. And then my mom and then my mother-in-law, they live very close, and they have been taking the kids they take the kids while I teach. We kind of have that fun arrangement. And then during the week, we'll have like a family dinner, once at my mom's and then once at my mother-in-law's. And that's been really fun. It's been quite the balance, and my family and everyone has just been so gracious to just kind of jump in and help. And something else that's just the beauty of Dynamic Doodle Co. is a lot of the things that I have to do are not necessarily like on a time constraint of the day. So it can really fit into the margins of my day. Like while I'm getting my little one down for a nap, I can be making a post to go up on Instagram. Or once my kids go to bed, then that's when I can get all my pieces for the rhythm builders and sort them all and package up orders. So it's been very flexible to fit around my family's needs.
Yeah, thank you for being honest about all of that. I think sometimes we see on Instagram, for you, it's an example, like Megan's doing all these things. She must be superwoman. But I appreciate you sharing. Like, there's grandmas involved, the unsung heroes behind the scenes, right? Are the grandmas and the husbands and the support team who help us all out. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. None of this would be possible without all of their help. And they help out so much. So I'm just so thankful.
Yeah. And I still think you're superwoman, by the way.
You are so sweet.
Top Music Pro enables you to be a pro in your own studio because you don't have to reinvent the wheel and you don't have to make up all the answers yourself. You have support.
I think of Top Music as the pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. This site is the whole pot of gold, and there's gold pieces in there that I didn't even know existed.
I am actually teaching a full studio. They're coming online from miles away. So I am certainly thriving.
So what Tim has done is build a global community of piano teachers who are interested, who are engaged. And when you become part of this community, you feel empowered.
My life is different now because I'm not just in an isolated little studio. I have learnt that there are other people out there going through very similar learning curves and sharing these ideas.
I've really gained a lot of skill sets where my teaching is far more creative, far more innovative. I have resources so that I can add to it things that I didn't know.
My life and my business are different now because I have the 3 things that I really wanted: less stress, more money, and more time.
It's going to be fun. Like, I got excited about being a piano teacher. It's revolutionized everything that I do.
I think I've become a more thoughtful teacher, a more organized teacher. The quality of my teaching has deepened.
I feel like I can do this. I feel a sense of hope. I love the creativity it fosters and the openness to thinking outside the box, and it's energizing.
Joining Top Music really solidified that. Like, no, this is your career, and you can make a career out of this. That has really helped me be proud of what I do.
It's made such a tremendous impact on the way I think about teaching. It keeps your mind open when you have so many ideas.
My best win from being on Top Music Pro is just having a lot more peace of mind as a teacher and as a business owner. It just gives me that less amount of hours that I have to do with research and everything.
It's a really good place to spend a few pounds, a few bucks a month. What you get from it far outweighs what you have to pay into it.
My biggest win with Top Music Pro was increased student retention and increased income. I have a lot more confidence in how I'm teaching, and I have the resources that I need when I do have questions.
I probably went from about 35 students to maybe like 65. I ended up doing 3 classes and I had a waiting list.
If I hadn't signed up with Top Music Pro, I probably wouldn't have realized that teaching piano is a real job and you can build your whole career around it.
So let's talk about the resources. We talked a little bit about the Rhythm Builder. We touched on the Composer Chronicles. What else is there that teachers should know about?
A fun little thing that I had no idea Dynamic Doodle Co. did for a while is they make buttons. So there's buttons for each of the composers, and currently I believe there's artwork for over 80 composers. So we have artwork for all of those, and then there's all kinds of other buttons. So a lot of teachers use these buttons as like milestone markers for their students, and it's been fun. This, as Stephanie has been, taking me along, especially in September, she sent me pictures from teachers that would message her privately and say, hey, like, look at my student's bag. And the student's like standing there with their bag and it's covered in buttons from, mastering scales or playing in recitals or learning a new dynamic and how to play it and master it well and, all kinds of things. So that's been kind of cool to see like that side of it too. And actually the buttons are how Dynamic Doodle Co. started. So that was kind of fun hearing the backstory from Stephanie on how, things grew from just this little button machine. And it's cool. She actually sent me the button machine and I have it now and it's fun to make them. So I've been teaching my husband how to make them. So that's one thing he can also do.
Yes. And I imagine when your kids get a little older, they can help with some of this product production. I know my son is always wanting to like help with stuff like that. He would think that was so fun.
Yeah. So I've actually already been making a few custom button orders. So teachers, like the one teacher that I've been working with, she does like a theme each year for her studio and orders custom buttons that fit the theme. So we just sent off 60 buttons to her. I think it was last week. And then she likes to do custom buttons for her recitals. So whatever the program is, she has custom buttons designed to go with that, with the name of the recital and then the date or the year.
Oh, that's neat. Wow. Very cool. What resources have been a big hit with your students in your studio?
I've been able to use the rhythm builders and the staff puzzlers with my students. And that, like when I pulled those out for some of my students this week, especially some of my younger, newer ones to music lessons, it's like the light bulb clicked. When they saw like the whole note took up the whole space in the rhythm builder, and then how they saw that the quarter notes were smaller or the 2/8 notes together in one tile were the same size as the 1/4 note. And it was just like such a good hands-on tool for my students to like visually see how long a note duration is. So that was cool. And then for the staff puzzler, I used those during my group of 3 students together, and they were like, let's race each other and see who can finish it first. So, and then I had them like check each other. So they were able to say, oh, you put the C in the wrong place or whatever. So that was really fun. It was like kind of cool to see the kids sharpening each other.
Yeah, I really love the rhythm builders too, and the way they're spaced out. There's something about doing that tactical element of putting it together and feeling like, wait, that doesn't fit there. And how do I fix that? I think that's so true. I haven't used the staff one. I have it, but a lot of my kids are too young for it still. They're still pre-readers. So I'll have to pull that one out soon though. Do you have a favorite in the Composer Chronicles series?
Probably Cecile Chaminade. And she was somebody that I had never heard of before. And I had done her in February with my students, and everybody loved that one, but especially my girls. That was one of the first female composers that we had studied about. And that was like right in the middle of when we were doing our studio-wide composing challenge where each student was composing their own piece and drawing artwork to go with it. And with Cecile's video, it just kind of showed how she used nature to inspire her pieces and how she would listen to the birds and then go to the piano and then write the melodies she heard. And so many of my girls were just so inspired by that. And they were like, I want to go to Paris and write music like her. So that was just so sweet. And it prompted me to do my own searching and listen to some of her pieces too. So yeah, she was probably my favorite.
Yeah, I only became familiar with her in grad school when I accompanied a flute piece that she has written. Don't ask me what it's called because I don't remember, but it was just so beautiful. And just even her name, like Cecile Chaminade, it just sounds so elegant. And I feel like her music is just as elegant. So I can understand why that would be a favorite. I don't really know anything about her life, so I'll have to check out the Composer Chronicles to find out more about her life.
Absolutely.
Do you have any, since we're talking about creative resources this month, do you have any creative games, resources, ideas that you use with your students, maybe outside of Dynamic Doodle Co.?
But one that I do use often is NoteRush. NoteRush has been a huge hit in my studio. And again, sometimes I like to do this between 2 one-on-one lessons or like at the tail end of a group of 3 students together, and just kind of have it be like a relay race at the piano where they'll take turns and then go to the back of the line and then play the note that they see on the screen. So that's been kind of fun and community building activity to do that gets my students up and on their feet. But as far as creativity, kind of going back to the Dynamic Doodle Co. worksheets that go with the videos, there is a couple worksheets that are called Listening Reflections. And there's one that says, draw what you feel as you listen to whatever piece. And it's been so much fun kind of seeing like my students visualize what the music is that they've been listening to. And some of the artwork, I was like, wow, like that's what you thought of while you were listening to that. I can totally see that. That's been like a super rewarding one. And we've been putting together a portfolio with all of their pieces of art together. So for the spring recital, they'll be able to showcase like all of the music that they've listened to and all the composers that they've learned about. So yeah, seeing their artwork has been so fun.
Yeah, I do that sometimes with my group classes, especially if they're getting a little like squirrely, out of control. I'll just like sit down and play some music and have them draw what they feel or what it makes them think of. And they just get really calm. And I don't know, they always love that activity. It's so simple, but it seems to really connect with students. So I like that. I do want to mention something that's not related to Dynamic Doodle Co. Well, it wasn't. It was yours, the recital compliment cards. And I have to tell you, Megan, I have a fall recital coming up this week. And so I was like, oh, I would love to have some fall recital compliment cards. And I looked in your Etsy shop and there weren't any. And I was like, well, that's okay. I can just use some of the other ones. But I didn't buy any. And then later that day, I saw you post something on Instagram. And so I sent you a message. I was like, do you by any chance have fall recital compliment cards? And you're like, yes, I just put them in there today. And I was so excited because I had just looked for them like maybe an hour before you put them in there. But I'm really excited to use them at our fall recital. We're doing cookie decorating. So everyone's going to be seated at tables already. And so I thought having the compliment cards at the table, like during the actual performances, because the cookie decorating will be later. Having the compliment cards at the table is one of my problems with this. I don't know why I'm going into this long story, but one of the problems I've had in the past is that we have a lot of kids and a lot of people. And so logistically, it was hard to make it work. But I thought they could just do compliment cards for the kids sitting at their table and then like hand them to them, right then. And then it would cut down on the logistics of it. So I'll have to let you know how it works, but that's my idea. So anyway, I love your compliment cards. I guess this isn't a question. I just like them, and I'm excited to use them this week.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
And I like that you have fall ones. They're beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Tell me about your vision for the future of Dynamic Doodle Co. You mentioned that you have a couple ideas for new resources, possibly. What are you thinking for the future? I know you just got started, but do you have some ideas? I'm sure you've been thinking about it.
Me and my husband's imaginations have just been running wild. As far as like a short-term new thing that we would like to introduce to Dynamic Doodle Co. is boom cards. And I actually just had a meeting with Kelly, and she helped me a lot with my Mozart deck that I'm currently working on. I don't know when it will be released, but it is in the works. So that's something that is totally going to be coming soon.
To go along with the composer?
Yeah, it would probably be something separate because it's not a PDF. It's part of an app. But yeah, boom cards for Dynamic Doodle Co. And then another thing is in my old Etsy shop, before it was, taken over by Dynamic Doodle Co., I had a lot of digital products, and the compliment cards were one of them. But one of the other things that I had on there were composer or music books, and they had each of the composers on them, and they were each a different color, each a different increment of dollar amount. And my students loved those. They were such a hit in my studio, and they actually all of my students have turned them in because we were taking a break from them this year. And then in January, we will revisit them. But instead of using the ones that I already have, there's going to be Dynamic Doodle Co. artwork music books. So that is currently in the design process right now.
Like to turn in for prizes? Is that the idea? Like a reward system?
So students were able to buy the composer pins, or it was just all music related stuff. It wasn't just normal, prizes that you could just get. There was music pencils or zippered pouches that, had music notes on them. And the biggest prize that I offered my students was a YouTube video. So we would take at the end of a lesson after they had completed a piece, then we would video it, and then I'd put it together into a YouTube video for them to send to their families. So I'm still working on editing some of these YouTube videos, but a lot of them have between 5 and 7 performances all together. So that's what a lot of my students use their music books for.
Wow, that's such a cool idea. I like that. Well, Megan, thank you so much for sharing about Dynamic Doodle Co. and everything that you've had going on and coming up. Please tell listeners where they can find you and get the Dynamic Doodle Co. products as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm on Facebook and Instagram, or Dynamic Doodle Co. is on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, although I have no idea what I'm doing with TikTok. So that's a beast I'm learning how to tackle. And then we have our website, dynamicdoodleco.com. And then we also have an Etsy shop and a Teachers Pay Teachers account. So you can find us in all of those places.
Great. And we'll put the links in the show notes as well. Well, Megan, I am so excited to see what the future holds for you and Dynamic Doodle Co. It was great to talk with you today and catch up.
Thank you so much. It was so much fun talking to you too.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. Isn't Megan just the best? I love that she is combining her creativity and love of teaching with her passion for creating resources. And I'm so excited to see what she's going to do with Dynamic Doodle Co. in the coming months and years. That's the end of the show for this week, but I invite you to tune in again next week where we'll have another exciting interview. I'm Rachel Ehring, and you've been listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. I'll talk with you again soon.
How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages, both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today.